12 Signs That You Are Rich, Even If You Don't Know It. Written and published by Rich Audiobooks.
There was a time when looking at your bank balance dictated how well you slept at night. A comma in your account could make you breathe easier or send you spiraling with dread. You tied your peace to numbers, to outcomes, to how much you were earning or saving or owing. You believed security was sitting inside your savings account, clutched tightly in a wallet creased with worry. But something shifted. Quietly, powerfully. You realized that no amount of money could give you the kind of safety you were truly craving. Now, you've begun to anchor in a different kind of richness. One that doesn't collapse when the market does. One that isn't dependent on your next paycheck or external validation. You've uncovered a truth most people spend a lifetime chasing. Safety isn't sold, it's claimed. From within. That change didn't happen overnight. Maybe it began when you made a decision to bet on yourself, even when you didn't have all the evidence yet. Maybe it started when you went through a rough season, lost income, a job that ended, an unexpected bill, and instead of falling apart, you found yourself arising, resourceful, grounded, capable. You weren't untouched by difficulty, but you weren't defined by it either. Instead of spiraling into fear, you leaned in, and somewhere in the chaos, you found your power. Chapter 1. You know money isn't what makes you feel safe. True safety doesn't come from what you have. It comes from who you've become. You've built resilience in places no one saw. You've created certainty from within, even when the world around you felt shaky. And that kind of strength, that's wealth. It's quiet. It's steady. It doesn't flaunt or flash, but it's felt. And once you've accessed that type of inner stability, the outside world begins to respond differently to you. Opportunities see you as a safe place to land. Wealth flows toward grounded energy. Because you're no longer gripping money out of fear, you're welcoming it from peace. This is why you no longer panic when things ebb. You don't spiral when a payment is delayed or an expense pops up without warning. Does it trigger old reflexes? Sure, but now you catch it. You breathe through it. You remind yourself, I've navigated more than this. I've survived Washer. I've rebuilt before, and I can again. But now, I won't need to, because I'm not working with just strategy anymore. I'm working with trust. You know who you are now. You've uncoupled your worth from your wallet. You're not here to prove anything to anyone, because you're already living in proof. Your value was never in the dollar amount. It was in your essence. Your ability to keep showing up, to stay curious, to keep choosing expansion even when fear begged you to shrink. That is financial magnetism. That is real power. And there's something expansive that happens when you no longer place your security in something temporary. You stop clinging. You start opening. You spend differently. Decide differently. You choose from your knowing, not your scarcity. Money becomes a tool, not a master. A mirror, not a measure of worth. You stop needing it to soothe your nervous system, because you've already learned to regulate without it. So when it comes, and it will, it doesn't own you. You're free. You are safe. Not because of the number in your account, not because of a job title or a backup plan, but because your nervous system knows how to breathe, even when there's uncertainty. Because your mind doesn't flood with panic during a setback. It floods with ideas. Because your heart can still feel gratitude, even when things aren't perfect. That's safety the world can't take from you. And now, money begins responding differently to you. It no longer feels elusive, moody, or punishing. It feels cooperative. It feels magnetized. Because now, you're not reaching for it to fill a gap. You're simply receiving it, because you've made yourself the kind of person money feels safe around. Certain, rooted, real. This is the foundation of true wealth. When you stop needing money to feel okay, you unlock the peace that makes money flow to you with ease.
You've let go of the codependent relationship, that back and forth emotional roller coaster of highs and lows every time your debit card was swiped. And in its place, you've created stability from the inside out. That inner wealth,
That's the kind of richness that multiplies. And you already have it.
Chapter 2. You no longer apologize for wanting more. There used to be a tightness in your body when you admitted what you really wanted. You'd soften your desires, downplay your dreams, wrap them in disclaimers or jokes to make them easier for other people to digest. I mean, not that I need that much, you'd say. Or, it would be nice, but I'm happy where I'm at. You thought being humble meant being smaller. You thought wanting more might mean you were being ungrateful. But the truth?
You were just scared to take up rich space. That version of you didn't know what you know now. That desire isn't selfish. It's sacred. It's the language of your higher self nudging you toward your potential.
And wanting more doesn't mean you're lacking something. It means you're expanding into something. Today you look at your desires differently. You see them as truth. You don't argue with what your spirit whispers anymore. You listen. You lean in. You no longer apologize as if wanting a lush life requires permission. Because now you understand the desire for more isn't about impressing others or collecting things. It's about alignment. You want more ease, more choice, more beauty, more peace. And guess what? You're allowed to want every drop of it. There's no need to qualify it. You don't have to earn it or prove your worth first. You already are worthy. Your desires are not problems to solve. They are directions. And you, my friend, have started to follow them. You've stopped contorting yourself to be palatable. You've stopped making your goals smaller in rooms where people don't dream big. You no longer feel guilty for picturing yourself in luxury, for asking for the raise, for investing in the mentorship, for upgrading your environment. You no longer flinch when you say, I want generational wealth, or I want a house with space, or I want more than enough. You say it with clarity, with conviction, with joy. That's when you know something has changed. The old programming, the scarcity, the shame, the shrinking. It may still echo sometimes, but you don't live there anymore. Now, you live in a deeper truth, that your desire was never the issue. The issue was the story that wanting more made you bad, or greedy, or unrealistic. But you're rewriting that story now. Richness isn't selfish, it's expansive. When you claim more for yourself, it overflows. It empowers others. It becomes permission for someone else to stop apologizing too. Let this sink in. You are allowed to want more without being in lack. You are allowed to want more while still being deeply grateful. You are allowed to want luxurious vacations, better pay, 5-figure months, soft mornings, and zero financial stress. That doesn't make you shallow. That makes you aware of what's actually possible. You used to create vision boards and whisper your dreams in secret. Now, you place your desires at the center of your focus, not as fantasies, but as facts in motion. You know the universe responds to clarity, so you're no longer vague, you're specific, and you're unshaken when others don't get it, because your vision wasn't given to them, it was given to you. This unapologetic energy is magnetic. When you own what you want without flinching, the world recalibrates around that frequency. You don't just want more, you're available for more. And that simple shift in posture changes everything. Now, when opportunity shows up, you don't minimize the moment.
You lean in. You say yes. You receive. You stop saying, "Who, me?" You've started saying, "Of course, me."
You don't dim your light to make others feel comfortable. You shine, which gives them permission to rise too. You've stepped into a new way of being, one where honesty about your desires is safe, empowered, and even sacred. You're no longer performing humility by pretending you're fine with crumbs. You know the universe didn't put you here to barely get by. You were born for overflow, for richness, for expansion. And now, you no longer hide from that truth. Wanting more is not the sin. Denying yourself the truth of what you want, that's the real disservice. So keep dreaming, keep asking, keep expanding. The world needs more people who are brave enough to say, "Yes, I want it all, and I'm no longer sorry for that." Chapter 3. You're attracting opportunities you didn't chase. There's something magical happening in your life right now, and if you slow down just enough to notice it, you'll feel its truth land softly, like a whispered yes from the universe. Opportunities are finding you. Connections are unfolding in divine timing. That job you didn't apply for, somehow your name was mentioned. That client you never pitched, they slid into your inbox, ready to work with you without hesitation. You didn't chase these things, you aligned with them. This is your sign that something profound has shifted within you. Because there was a time when you believed you had to hustle hard, push endlessly, and prove your worth at every turn. You measured your value against your productivity. You believed being busy meant being successful, so you tried to force the outcomes. You refreshingly followed every lead, over-delivered, stretched yourself thin, and yet, what you were seeking always felt one step ahead, just out of reach. But now, something's different. You're softer, yet stronger, less frantic, more magnetic. You still take action, yes, but not from fear. You've moved beyond effort alone into embodiment. You've stopped chasing and started tuning in. You've learned that alignment trumps strategy every time. Because when your energy matches the reality you want, reality doesn't have much choice but to rise up and meet you. That's why new opportunities are flowing in through channels you never planned. It's not chaos, it's support. You're finally available to receive because you've stopped doubting if you're worthy. You've stopped micromanaging the how and surrendered to a more powerful truth. When you hold the frequency of value, value finds you. So when a surprise invitation arrives in your DMs or someone mentions your name in a room you've never entered, remember, this is not a fluke. This is flow. That inbox message, that's evidence. That unexpected collaboration, that's alignment. That sudden breakthrough or lucky break isn't luck at all. It's a mirror reflecting your inner belief system back to you. Your energy went first, and now the world is catching up. You didn't chase, but you did choose. You chose to become a version of yourself who expects doors to open, who trusts that what's aligned will find its way. You've made peace with patience, surrendered to timing, and rooted into worthiness so deeply that the outside world is rewarding your inner richness. Here's what's even more powerful. You rarely feel surprised anymore. Maybe grateful, absolutely humbled, but not shocked. Because some part of you knows it's supposed to be this way. With every aligned opportunity that finds you, your nervous system relaxes a little more into trust. You're not waiting for the next thing from a place of anxiety. You're receiving from a calm place of readiness. And that changes everything. It changes how you show up in conversations. You're less about proving and more about being. It shows in how you walk into rooms,
not trying to win people over, but trusting you belong there. It's in the tone of your voice when you say yes to opportunities that scare you a little. Not because you're unqualified, but because you're expanding into your next level. You're not afraid of being seen anymore. You're allowing visibility without needing to control. He's watching. And that's why the right people, the ones who light you up, who respect your boundaries, you see your value, are noticing you. Because you're no longer dimming your glow to fit in with those not ready for you. This is rich energy. This is real abundance. It's not just money flowing in. It's options. It's partnerships. It's freedom. And it's coming with ease, not effort. Because the richest people in the world don't look stressed. They look relaxed. They trust their value speaks loud enough for them not to shout. So, if you've been wondering why things suddenly feel like they're clicking, let this be your confirmation. You've shifted into energetic maturity. You've become the version of yourself that opportunities search for. Without forcing, without overexerting, without molding yourself to fit what you think the world wants. Because now, you're the magnet. You're the one that aligned ideas move toward. You're the one who attracts simply by being whole, visible, and open. And believe this, the opportunities coming now are just the first wave. When you stop chasing and start receiving, you don't just become rich, you become undeniable. Chapter 4. You feel rich before seeing results. There's a moment when everything changes, not on the outside, but deep within. It's subtle, almost quiet, but once it happens, you can't go back. It's the moment you realize you don't need the money in your hands to feel wealthy in your soul. You don't need the proof to feel promise. And that is the moment you've tapped into true abundance. There was a time you waited for signs. You waited for the client to sign, the check to clear, the tax return to hit. Only then did you allow yourself to exhale, to relax, to feel accomplished. But now, you're not waiting anymore. You've discovered that the real magic, the real transformation begins when you feel rich first, before the deal is done, before the wire hits, before the thing shows up physically. You understand now that feeling rich is a frequency, and it's available to you regardless of your current situation. You can wake up in a modest apartment with unpaid bills and an uncertain income and still feel like a wealthy person. Why? Because you're no longer basing your identity on your temporary circumstances. You're tuned into something deeper, something more true, more permanent. You've claimed a vision, and because of that, everything around you starts to bend to meet it. This isn't fake it till you make it. This is feel it till you become it. It takes bravery to feel wealthy when your bank account says otherwise. It takes vision to sit in the middle of your current life and choose to embody the vibration of someone who already has it all. That vibration isn't wishful thinking. It's creative power. It's how reality is shaped, and you're learning to wield it with confidence. You're not avoiding your current reality. You respect it. You see it. But you've stopped worshipping it. You stopped allowing it to determine what you're worthy of or what you're capable of receiving next. You understand that your current financial results are simply echoes of old beliefs, old actions, old energies. The future you're stepping into, that's being built on who you're being now. And who you're being now is someone who knows they're already rich. This is what it means to reverse the old paradigm. Most people think it goes like this: have the money, feel the richness, believe in the abundance. But you've flipped the script. You feel the richness first, you believe in the abundance first, and then the external follows. It has to.
The universe is simply reflecting what you've already decided. You've stopped chasing more from a place of lack. Instead, you move boldly from a place of fullness. You pause throughout the day to acknowledge how good your life already is. You feel grateful not with gritted teeth, but with genuine softness. You smile not because everything is perfect, but because you know everything is being perfected. Your wealth isn't somewhere far ahead. It's underneath your feet, right now, and you walk more confidently because of it. The way you carry yourself has changed. You say no to things that don't match your new standard. You invest differently. You speak differently. You dress differently. Not because you're pretending, but because you finally stopped pretending you're not worthy of what you've always wanted. That change doesn't happen because of a number. The feeling doesn't come from the statement or the screenshot. It comes from the shift inside your body, the alignment of your heart, the soothing of your nervous system when you realize, I am already successful. I am already abundant. I am already rich. Others might not see it yet. They might not understand this quiet confidence, this certainty that doesn't match the numbers they see. But you don't need them to. You're not here for external validation. You're here for internal alignment. And that alignment, that's the source of everything. Because here's the real truth. People who feel rich become rich. It's not a coincidence. It's cause and effect. When you feel rich now, when you vibrate at that level, not just occasionally, but consistently, your world starts to rearrange. Ideas land. People show up. Synchronicities unfold. Money flows, not through force, but through resonance. You've become wealthy in your being, and now everything outside of you is simply catching up to that truth. This is your wealth awakening, and you're already living it. Chapter 5. You're comfortable talking about wealth. Once upon a time, money talk used to make you squirm. Someone asking about prices or salaries felt invasive, tense, like being caught in a spotlight without the right answer. Maybe you avoided the subject, downplayed your goals, or changed the topic when someone else brought up success. Money felt like a loaded conversation, because, back then, it was attached to judgment, fear, insecurity. But now, you've grown, you've shifted, and it shows in the way you speak. You talk about wealth the way someone fluent in a new language does, fluidly, calmly, without second-guessing or trying to sound like someone else. There's no performance, no need to impress. Just clarity, confidence, calm knowing. You can say what you charge for your work without apology. You can ask for the raise. You can discuss investing, expansion, abundance, not as distant concepts, but as living realities. You're not curious if money will flow. You're simply interested in how much, through which channels, and in what form. There's an incredible kind of power in reclaiming the money conversation. Because now, you know that money is not taboo. It's not dirty. It's not something to be whispered about in low tones, fearing someone might think you're too ambitious, or, gasp, materialistic. You've realized that it's not noble to be broke and ashamed to be rich. Those were old stories, passed down like scarcity heirlooms, taught by people doing the best they could with what they had. But you made the decision to break that chain. You've done the inner work required to separate money from morality, from worth, from shame. You now see money as neutral, an amplifier, not a definition. It reflects the energy you hold. When you show up expansive, open-hearted, and ready to receive, money matches that. When you operate from truth, alignment, and value, money responds in kind. That's why you no longer get weird or awkward when the topic comes up. You're not trying to prove anything. You just understand that wealth is a frequency you've tuned into. and there's no need to hide that.
People notice it too. They feel that ease in you. Like money doesn't own you. Like you and money are on the same team.
And in conversation, it's not just about throwing out lofty numbers or impressive anecdotes. It's in how you speak about possibility. It's in how your language flows from lack to expansion. You talk about investments like someone who expects to grow, not someone bracing for loss. You talk about earnings with excitement, not exhaustion. Your words about wealth are grounded, gracious, and infused with belief. Because being rich isn't just knowing how to talk about money. It's knowing how to honor it, how to respect its energy by not burying it in secrecy or shame. You've stopped letting money be the elephant in the room. Instead, you invite it to the table. You speak of it like the partner it is, dynamic, responsive, here to meet you where you are. And perhaps one of the most beautiful parts? You now hold space for others' wealth too. You're not threatened by someone else's success. You celebrate it. You ask questions. You receive inspiration instead of intimidation. And because you've become more comfortable talking about your own abundance, others feel safe to do the same. You're normalizing wealth for yourself and for the people around you. The conversations you now have ripple far beyond the room. They shift the power money used to have to divide, and instead let it be a unifier, a reflection of possibility. So if you've caught yourself lately casually talking about the money coming in, or dream talking, investments and expansion with friends who get it, take a deep breath. Smile. You've already stepped across a threshold most people don't even realize exists. You've stopped making wealth a secret. You've made it a song. You are fluent in abundance. You're not just manifesting wealth, you're embodying it. And the way you speak proves it. Chapter 6. You spend from overflow, not fear. You used to look at the price tag first, not because you didn't want the thing, but because your nervous system was trained to scan for danger, trained to question, can I afford this? Before allowing in the joy of wanting. You know that feeling, the tightness in the chest, the pause before purchase, the post-swipe panic, no matter how small the amount. That fear, it lived in your body like a default setting. And if you've noticed lately that it's starting to fade, know that you've been reaching for your wallet with a little more peace, a little more certainty. Know this, that's a sign you've shifted into overflow. You spend differently now. Not recklessly, not carelessly, but from trust. Trust that what you give will return. Trust that your desires are safe to follow. Trust that money is a cycle, not a cliff. You've started replacing the "what if I lose it all" thoughts with "what if I always have more than enough?" And from that mental shift, your entire relationship with spending has transformed. It's no longer a transaction, it's a declaration. When you're in overflow, you're not performing abundance, you're embodying it. You're not flashing your wealth for approval, nor are you contorting yourself into frugality to feel responsible. You've understood that true financial confidence isn't about the amount, it's about the energy behind the exchange. Overflow is a calm knowing. You don't need to prove anything. You simply know, I have enough. I will always have enough. There's more where that came from. And the beautiful part? You spend with presence now. You let yourself enjoy what you're choosing. A lunch with a friend is no longer marinated in guilt. That outfit you bought because it made you feel radiant, you wear it with pride, not apologies. Even your investments, your vacations, your coaching sessions, or skincare, they're not coming from a place of trying to fix yourself, but from honoring yourself. Every swipe or click or signed check carries the energy of, I'm taken care of. You've released the subconscious belief that spending drains you. Instead, you see it as circulation, movement, flow. You're starting to notice something else too. The less you grip onto money, the more it shows up. The less you overthink every dollar, the easier it becomes to receive more. You've stopped micromanaging the universe. You're no longer stuck in the loop of save, hoard, shrink. You've upgraded to receive, enjoy, replenish. And this cycle, this new way of being, feels safer to your nervous system than scarcity ever did. That's not an accident. That's expansion. What you've done, consciously or not, is healed the root of money fear. You no longer treat money like a guest that might leave at any time. You treat it like a partner, consistent, reliable, joyful. You understand now, but how you feel when you spend determines how it returns to you. If you spend in panic, your energy broadcasts lack. But when you spend in faith, with joy, aligned with purpose, the universe hears you clearly. I'm not afraid anymore. This is the quiet power of overflow. It's subtle. It's not about showing off. It's about showing up for your desires, for your comfort, for your expansive life. You don't need permission to enjoy what you've earned. You don't need to justify a single thing that makes you light up. Your spending is intentional, and that intention carries wealth energy. And let's be honest, sometimes you still feel the old fear whispering. That's okay. Fear doesn't mean failure. It just means you're on the edge of a new vibrational frequency. Each time you choose to spend from trust instead of fear, you're rewiring your money story. You're teaching your system that it's safe to be generous, safe to receive, safe to enjoy. Overflow isn't about having millions. It's about knowing the well never runs dry. It's a quiet confidence that aligns your vibration with more ease, more expansion, more miracles. And if you've been noticing lately that you're no longer calculating every cent, if you're breathing easier after checkout, smiling after giving, or saying yes to upgrades without the guilt, you've found your flow. That's a sign you're rich. You don't spend to escape emptiness. You spend to express the abundance that's already flowing through you. You don't buy to feel worthy. You buy because you know you already are. You're not scared of spending anymore, because you know you're always supported, always replenished, always in overflow. And that changes everything. Chapter 7. You value time more than money. There was a time when you equated wealth with how much money you could earn, save, or accumulate. It was about the paycheck, the bonus, the sale. Productivity felt like worth, and rest felt like laziness. So, you traded your minutes for dollars, thinking that the grind guaranteed something greater. But now, something shifted. There's a deep knowing in you that time is the most non-renewable resource you have. You've begun to treat it like the treasure it is. You used to pack your calendar, checking off task after task, like a badge of honor. It felt productive, sure, but not powerful. The hustle fed your ego, but it drained your spirit. And somewhere along the way, you started to realize, real wealth doesn't look like burnout. It looks like spaciousness. It looks like being able to pause, breathe, and choose. That knowing crept in quietly at first. Maybe it started when you said no to a gig that didn't light you up. Or maybe when you turned your phone off for an afternoon, and for the first time in a while, nothing fell apart. You began to see that money can be made, lost, and made again. But time doesn't refund itself. And with that realization came action. Bigger than boundaries, you started honoring your schedule like a sacred contract with your future self. You're no longer filling your days just to stay busy. You're intentional. If something doesn't serve your expansion, your peace, or your purpose, it gets a loving no. And in the space that decision creates, that's where creativity, joy, and true abundance rush in. See,
The richest people in the world don't just own more homes. They own more time. They move slowly through luxury. They allow themselves Saturday mornings with no agenda. They have room in their day for a walk, a book, a nap in the middle of the afternoon. That's not laziness, it's leadership. It's the declaration that your nervous system deserves rest, that your body isn't a machine, that your mind works best when it's not under siege. You're not rushing anymore. You're not saying yes out of obligation. You're no longer performing burnout as proof of your value. You've learned to trust the quiet. You recognize that inspiration doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers, and you need space to hear it. That shift is massive, because when you stop trying to outrun time, you begin to partner with it. You align your choices with your energy, not your panic. That's the recalibration that sets you apart. You may notice now that the things you used to prioritize, the late nights, the frantic yeses, the deep endless chasing, no longer hold the same appeal. You crave alignment, not adrenaline. You've recognized that giving your hours to something that drains you is the most expensive transaction of all. And because you know your time is sacred, you protect it with grace and clarity. You no longer entertain urgency that isn't yours. You are worthy of moving at a pace that honors your peace. This is a kind of richness that you can't always measure from the outside, but you feel it. It's in the way your morning feels slower. Your decisions feel clearer. Your energy feels cleaner. It's in how you let voice notes replace drawn-out calls, automation replace overload, peace replace people-pleasing. You've chosen efficiency with soul, not speed for the sake of performance. You've redefined productivity to include presence. And that's wealth redefined. It might surprise you how magnetic you've become in this new pace. People are drawn to your calm. Opportunities find you without force. Because while everyone else is sprinting in circles, you're walking in alignment. You've tapped into an unshakable truth. Time expands when you trust it, and the more you honor it, the more it multiplies, not just in your schedule, but in your life force. You feel full, even on a light day, because richness isn't the weight of your to-do list. It's the freedom of your soul. This is how the wealthy think. Not just those with bank accounts full of commas, but those whose days are full of meaning. You've begun moving like someone who owns their minutes. You understand that every second spent out of alignment is a silent leak in your abundance. So you refill your schedule with intention. You invest in mentorship, in rest, in joy, in the activities that multiply your energy, not just your outcome. That's the true ROI. You are not trading your life away for small, predictable returns anymore. You're setting your life up for limitless expansion, and that requires time to breathe, to think, to simply be. This is richness. This is presence. This is power. And the best part? You didn't have to wait for a certain income level to make this shift. You decided that your time became more valuable, and then everything else adjusted around that. Your calendar reflects your worth now. And if that's not wealth in motion, I don't know what is. Chapter 8. You assume wealth is normal for you. There's a quiet power in what you now believe to be possible. Not someday, not maybe, not if everything magically lines up, but now, naturally, as a given. You no longer see wealth as something reserved for the lucky few or the ones who made it. You wake up and move through your life with an inner certainty. Abundance belongs to you. It's not fantasy. It's familiar. You don't have to prove yourself worthy of it. You just have to continue allowing it in. That's what shifted. Something inside you,
stopped being surprised when good things came, and started saying, "Of course." You assume wealth is normal for you, and that assumption is everything. This isn't delusion. You're not pretending. You're remembering. You're remembering that wealth isn't something you earn once and cling to. It's something you align with again and again. There is a difference between hoping for abundance and integrating it into who you are. You used to wait to feel wealthy until you had the evidence, the higher paycheck, the client roster, the windfall. Now, you flip the script. You aren't waiting for the numbers to give you permission. You've already given it to yourself. And because of that, money seems to show up more smoothly, more frequently, and more naturally than it ever has before. It's not because you're trying harder. In fact, you've probably stopped trying so hard. You've let go of the internal grip, the constant resistance that used to whisper, "Who are you to have this?" Now there's only your calm, relaxed certainty. Left double quotation mark. Am I not to? What used to feel extravagant now feels obvious. Of course you treat yourself. Of course you invest in your growth. Of course you live with spaciousness. You don't shrink in grocery stores or fumble when the bill comes. You don't question your dreams. You nurture them. You stop storyboarding the worst-case scenarios, and instead, you rehearse receiving. Because that's the identity you've stepped into without even realizing it sometimes. Someone who receives with grace, who expects miracles, who sees wealth not as a distant possibility, but a daily presence. And because you assume it's normal, you no longer overreact to its fluctuations. That's big. You don't spiral when an invoice is delayed, or when a launch doesn't land the way you thought it would. You know money is like air. It flows in, it flows out, and it always returns. That's how deeply you've reprogrammed your nervous system. That's how safe you've made it for yourself to believe in your abundance again and again. And let's talk about the subtle ways this shows up. The way you carry yourself differently, not arrogantly, but with ease. You walk into rooms like you belong, because you do. You say no to things that used to make you feel obligated, because scarcity doesn't run the show anymore. You trust your voice in conversations around money, and don't flinch when investment opportunities come up, because you see yourself as someone who participates in wealth building, not someone trying to get in the door. You scroll past the $1 million stories online, and instead of feeling triggered, you feel inspired, not because you're chasing those numbers, but because your vision can hold them. Your self-image doesn't resist wealth anymore. That's not a small thing. That's the entire game. You've trained yourself to believe that more is not only possible, it's probable. The version of you reading this, you already know it's coming. You can feel it. You're calm, peaceful, expectant. The old version of you, the one who used to doubt, used to wonder, used to hold back, still pops up every now and then. And that's okay. But now, you see them with compassion. You smile. You reassure. Because now you carry evidence. Abundance has already begun shaping your life. This shift didn't happen overnight, but it did happen quietly, gradually, with every decision to choose faith over fear. With each moment you said yes to the future instead of anchoring into the past. And now it's embodied. Wealth is in your language, in your posture, in your presence. To the outside world, maybe not much has changed, but you know the truth. Everything has. Because once you assume wealth is normal for you, you stop waiting. You start receiving. You stop hustling for permission. You start boldly showing up. And life responds to that energy, over and over again, because you've become a match to what you used to think was impossible. You don't just believe in wealth anymore.
You live like it's yours. Chapter 9. You trust that what you want is already yours. There's a soft confidence that settles into your bones when you no longer ask, will it happen? And instead breathe into, it's already mine. You're no longer trying to prove your worth through how hard you work, how much you push, or how tightly you grip your desires. You've stepped into something deeper than hustle. You've stepped into trust, and in doing so, you've activated a magnetic force far more powerful than effort. Certainty. You've released the need to control every detail. You're not fixating on timelines, obsessively checking your manifestation journal, or micromanaging the universe to deliver on your schedule. That used to be your rhythm. Anxious asking, tight waiting, maybe even a little bargaining. But now you wake up and align. You attune to your desires like tuning to a frequency, knowing the signal was already sent and the delivery is already en route. You're not questioning if the package is coming just because you haven't seen the delivery truck. You trust what's on its way, and that trust is changing everything. This doesn't mean you don't take action. You do, but the energy has shifted. You act from inspiration, not panic. You allow space between your intention and the unfolding, and in that space, you hold power. You're no longer pressure-filled, you're peace-filled. What once felt like waiting now feels like alignment. What once felt like hoping now feels like knowing. You've stopped begging the universe for things you're already aligned with and started receiving in ways that are quiet, consistent, and surprisingly effortless. You trust because you've seen it happen. You've manifested the parking spot, the random check, the perfectly timed message. You've watched things rearrange in your favor when before they never could have. That wasn't luck. That was you, stepping into faith and watching life mirror your inner shift. Even in the moments when it didn't show up how you expected, you began to see the reroutes for what they really were. Redirections, not rejections. You stopped turning delays into doom. You made space for the unknown because you stopped seeing it as unsafe. When things don't show up on your timeline now, you don't spiral. You center. You remind yourself, if it's mine, it cannot miss me. And if it missed me, it was never meant to stay. That's the posture of someone who walks with true wealth, the kind that isn't shaken by a temporary no, because you know there's always a better yes coming. Here's the thing most people miss. Trust is not passive. It's powerful. It's not sitting back and doing nothing. It's anchoring into a frequency so deeply that no external circumstance can make you waver. When others panic, you calibrate. When others chase, you attract. That calm you carry, it's not naive. It's deliberate. It says, I know what I'm building. I know what I've asked for. And I know who I am. And that sense of knowing changes how you move through your day. You don't scramble. You prepare. You clean your space as if the abundance is arriving tonight. You speak as if you're already living in that next version of you. You check your email with expectancy, not desperation. You walk past opportunities and think, the right ones are finding me. You look at your bank account and think, and this is only the beginning. Because energy doesn't lie, and yours, it's already expanded into the reality you're calling in. There's joy here, in this trust, a quiet kind of joy that grounds you when things don't look like they should. Because even when it looks like nothing is happening, you feel everything shifting. You refuse to be fooled by appearances. That's the superpower of someone who truly trusts. You no longer need the physical evidence to be convinced. You are the evidence. The way you sit straighter, the way you speak clearer, the way you stretch instead of shrink.
That's the proof your future self is already living beside you, whispering, "Keep walking. We're almost there." And when people ask you how it all came together, you won't say you forced it. You'll say you knew. That somewhere, deep in your spirit, long before the money, long before the clients, long before the move or the miracle, you felt it was already done. You felt the internal shift before you ever saw the external reward. And that feeling, that knowing, that is the frequency of wealth. You've stopped asking if you're worthy. You know you are. You've stopped doubting the path. You trust it. You don't have to see it all to believe in it. Because in your heart, you've already arrived. And now, life is just catching up. Chapter 10. You think and move like your future self. There's a moment when everything begins to shift. Not necessarily because your outer world changes, but because your inner posture does. You start making decisions not from the place where you are, but from where you're going. Scratch that. From where you already are, energetically. You begin thinking and moving like your future self. Not someday, not later, but now. This version of you did not appear by accident. You have been aligning with them through every intuitive nudge, every mindset shift, every brave step you took when no one was watching. And now, you embody their frequency more and more each day. You hear their voice in your mind when a decision arises. They speak with clarity, confidence, and abundance. You dress a little differently, sit a little taller, speak with more certainty, not because you're faking it, but because you're remembering. You are catching up with who you've always been meant to become. Thinking like your future self means planning with vision, not fear. You no longer ask, "Can I afford this?" In the scarcity sense, you ask, "Does this match my future frequency?" It's no longer about price tags. It's about alignment. You invest where your future self would invest. In your healing, in your peace, in your expansion. You stop buying things that dull your shine and start choosing things that stretch your identity. And when doubt creeps in, because it sometimes does, you hold your own hand and remind yourself, the path you're walking is not always logical, but it is always faithful. Moving like your future self requires you to detach from old identities. The version of you that played small, delayed decisions, or waited for external permission no longer fits. That skin is too tight now. You've outgrown the habit of proving your worth. You no longer audition for abundance. You own it. There's something beautifully subtle about this internal evolution. From the outside, people might not immediately notice what's changed, but energetically, everything has. You no longer wait to be chosen. You have chosen yourself. You're not surviving. You're creating. You don't negotiate with lack anymore. You speak the language of abundance fluently and effortlessly, even if you're still learning the dialect in some areas. That's okay. You are fluent enough to guide your own reality now. You make moves with patience, but not passivity. You don't chase urgency. You honor divine timing while honoring your own power to initiate. You wake up and act like someone whose goals are done, whose vision is in motion, whose abundance is inevitable. That energy is not frantic. It's magnetic. That's the real you stepping forward. And perhaps most importantly, you're no longer emotionally anchored to your current reality. You respect it, but you don't worship it. You know it's temporary. You treat this version of your life with gratitude, while building the next one with intention. You are available for miracles. You are available for exponential shifts. Because you've stopped relating to your past when making your choices. You listen to your future. Your future self isn't waiting at the finish line. They're already here, cheering you on. whispering ideas at random times, nudging you toward divine pivots, pulling you closer to the life that already exists in quantum form. And the more you embody them, the more that version begins to materialize. Not because you're chasing, but because you're sinking. You stop needing proof before choosing belief. That's a rich shift. Most people live in reverse. They demand evidence before they commit energetically. But you commit first. You show up as her first, as him first, as them first. Your frequency leads, and reality follows. Walking like your future self doesn't mean pretending. It means embodying. It's not a show. It's a choice. 1,000 little choices that say, I trust who I am becoming. So I don't have to wait until the money lands, the call comes, or the circumstances make sense. I can move now. Because abundance isn't a destination. It's an identity I've claimed. You didn't need someone to open a door for you. You became the door. And every time you show up as your future self today, when you speak with intention, dress with confidence, invest with faith, or even pause with purpose, you collapse time. You bring that future closer. You're not just manifesting wealth. You're stepping into the wealth code that already lives inside you. You think like your future self because you are your future self. And they've been waiting for you to recognize it. Chapter 11. You're surrounded by abundant energy. You can feel it, even before the money lands in your account, even before the job offer, the sale, the unexpected check. Something has shifted around you. The air feels fuller. The conversations you're having are richer. Your circle is starting to look different, sound different, operate on a higher frequency. And maybe you haven't made any huge moves externally, but your life is starting to mirror the energy you've been cultivating internally. That's no accident. That's abundance catching up with you. You're no longer the person who scrolls through social media feeling triggered by someone else's wins. You feel activated. When you see someone living expansively, it doesn't make you question your path. It reinforces it, because now you recognize that abundance isn't a competition, it's a current. And when you're plugged in, everyone's success reminds you that more is possible, not less available. Pay attention to the people and spaces you're finding yourself in lately. Notice how the conversations are evolving. You're no longer stuck in loops about how hard things are or how expensive everything is. You're in rooms where the language of growth is normal, where dreams are spoken into being over coffee or Zoom chats, where talking about scaling, healing, investing, and receiving isn't intimidating. It's uplifting. That energy, it shapes you. It reflects you. It draws more richness into your world without you having to force a thing. And it's not just about other people. You are part of that energy too. You are someone else's evidence. You're the mirror showing others what's possible. Your calm presence, your sense of knowing, your ability to hold big vision without spiraling it. It's magnetic. You're the one people notice is different now. Maybe they can't name it, but they feel it. And what they're sensing is your wealth energy, grounded, unbothered, deeply rooted in enoughness. This is what it feels like to stop surviving and start radiating. It doesn't matter what your external circumstances say in this moment. If your spirit is full, if your ideas are flowing, if you feel tapped in, you are already wealthy in frequency. And the physical catching up. You've stopped waiting for proof. You are the proof. And that's why life is starting to respond to you differently. Things are opening up. Not because you pushed, but because you shifted. Even the way you notice beauty has changed. Where once you might have overlooked the softness of a morning or the way sunlight hits your floor, now you see it and you feel rich in that noticing. Wealth isn't just dollar signs anymore. It's peace, clarity, inspiration. You feel surrounded by signs of support. Not because they weren't there before, but because now you have the eyes to see them. When you treat your environment as though it's abundant, it multiplies. That's a spiritual law. You're doing something most people don't know how to do. You've reprogrammed your baseline. You've raised your standard from struggle to serenity, from hustle to harmony. You no longer lean towards scarcity thinking, even when old patterns try to whisper. You choose again. You soften into abundance, and that choice rewires your world. The energy you're in is becoming your new normal, and soon, so will the reality that reflects it. So, if you've been wondering why life feels more aligned lately, why the right people are reaching out, why the timing of things feels divine, it's because you're now tuned to a frequency of flow. Your subtle shifts in thought, your bold claiming of more, your emotional maturity, they've created a new field around you. That field is potent, it's magnetic, and most importantly, it's sustainable, because it's real. You don't need to overperform, prove, or produce to stay in the room. This energy accepts you fully. You belong here, in wealth, in expansion, in ease. And just by being in this space, by breathing this in, you're upgrading everything. The version of you who walks through life like they are surrounded by abundance. That's not a future story. That's your current reality. You are surrounded by it because you created it. It lives in your outlook, your connections, your self-talk, your gratitude. This is what abundance sounds like, feels like, moves like. The best part, this energy doesn't plateau. It compounds. So even if it feels subtle right now, remember the energy of rich is rarely loud. It's steady, it's unshakable, and it's surrounding you more and more every day. Keep walking in that truth, because the more deeply you claim this frequency, the more loudly life will echo it back. Chapter 12. You realize you don't chase money, you attract it. There is a profound difference between chasing something and allowing it in. You used to run after money. You chased job titles, price tags, opportunities, validation. There was a time when you believed that if you just pushed harder, worked longer, stayed busier, the money would finally catch up to your effort. But something shifted. Somewhere along your journey, you stopped chasing and started receiving. Not because your ambition faded, but because your frequency changed. Now, you recognize that money isn't a prize you hustle for. It's a response. A response to your energy, your belief, your openness. Money isn't magic, but it does respond to magnetism. And you, my friend, have become magnetic. Not because you cracked some secret code, but because you finally stepped into the truth of who you are. Worthy, powerful, abundant. Even if the numbers aren't exactly where you want them yet, deep down, you feel the shift. You're no longer throwing energy at things that don't align. You're no longer trying to prove your worthiness to receive. You know that when you are in alignment, when you're present, purposeful, and receptive, money flows to you as a byproduct of your energy, not as a reward for your exhaustion. This is a sign that cannot be faked. It's not a surface-level affirmation or a pretty quote pinned to your vision board. It's a cellular-level understanding that the less you strain, the more you gain. That when you're living in your joy, showing up as your true self, and trusting the process, abundance doesn't need to be pried open. It arrives, invited. You've stopped chasing out of desperation. You've stopped vibrating with, "I need this now, or everything will fall apart." That energy repels what you desire.
but calm certainty. That draws in miracles. Now, you walk into rooms differently. Your conversations are rooted in value, not performance. When you launch an idea, share a creation, or make an offer, you do it from a place of deep knowing. This has worth, and people will feel that. Even your silence is changed. You're no longer anxiously refreshing your inbox or checking your account after every post, every pitch. You trust your energy to do the talking long after you stop speaking. That's wealth frequency. That's attraction.
What's beautiful is that people can feel this shift in you, even if they don't have the language for it. They call you lucky, magnetic, on fire. But you know the truth. It's not luck, it's alignment. It's not random, it's resonance. You've cleared the static of fear, hustle, and lack from your vibration. And now, money comes to you not as a fix, but as a flow. Think about how your body feels now when you think about receiving large amounts of money. There's less tightness, more expansion. You no longer believe you have to trade your well-being, your relationships, or your peace for prosperity. You know those things work together, not against each other. You recognize that your energetic state is your most powerful form of currency, and you guard it with love and intention. You stopped broadcasting lack. You no longer lead with urgency or scarcity in your decisions. Instead, you move with trust. You ask from truth. You welcome from stability. That's how you became a beacon for abundance. So if you've been wondering whether you're doing it right, let this be your confirmation. You're no longer running after money because you've remembered how powerful it is to let money come find you. You've built the resonance within yourself. You've softened your grasp and strengthened your belief. You've stepped into the version of you that no longer waits for permission to receive. At this point in your journey, you can feel that you are the source of wealth, not just the seeker of it. And that shift, that quiet, rooted knowing in your body, mind, and soul, that's not just a sign, that's your proof. You are rich not because you caught money, but because you finally stopped running from yourself. You turned inward, cleared the noise, and remembered your frequency. And now, you attract everything you used to chase. This is what abundance does when it feels safe with you. It comes home.